Hello and welcome to Talk Spooky to Me, the Ghost Story Guys mail show. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Paul Bestel.
And this is our opportunity to hear from you, our audience. Paul Bestel, my friend, what did you think of the Fantastic Four teaser?
Woo!
Yes, woo indeed.
I saw more in 1 minute 30 seconds than I've seen in the previous 3 films, so I'm in. It's better than all 3 of them put together.
I mean, it's a low bar, but yes, I agree.
Yeah, well, it was fairly low, and then the last one is as low as you can be without being a DC film.
I have to admit, I never finished that one. I got about half an hour in. I never
tried.
I got about half hour in, and I thought, no, thanks.
Yes, I'm very interested as well that they seem to have got the Red Ghost involved as well in it, as well as Galactus.
Oh, I'm actually not familiar with Red Ghost.
Well, the Red Ghost, you see, he's a mad scientist who uses apes as bodyguards, and he lives in space, and he's kind of like a transcendental being because he fell into the negative zone and then he fell back out of it, and he can kind of manipulate molecules.
I'm on board already. You had me at space apes.
Yeah, I think that's him anyway. It's a long while since I've read any. He's like proper old school Fantastic Four, like Mole Man.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm very stoked. I have to say, the last kind of round of Marvel things I have not been thrilled for, and I have a friend who loves to give me shit because after we watched Endgame, I basically said, I don't think I need to watch any more of these. I kind of feel like I've had my full arc. But of course, like a chump, I've gone to see every single one in cinemas when opportunity has presented itself. But I haven't been excited for them. But I actually bought 3 weeks in advance tickets to see, or an IMAX ticket to go see the new Captain America next week.
Yes. And
I'm just like, no, I'm in. Fuck it, I'm in. If this one stinks, then maybe I'll start revising my opinion. But I'm just, I'm sidling up to the trough, and I am feeding.
Yeah, I've booked tickets as well. We're going Sunday the 16th.
Nice. All right. However, we are not here to talk about Marvel films, although we could easily have an entire separate podcast in which we do that. Instead, we are here today to answer listener mail.
Our courteous and efficient staff is on call 24 hours a day to serve all your supernatural elimination needs.
We're ready to believe you.
And just before Paul gets started with our first letter here, I just want to remind everyone who might be new to the show that if it's the ghost stories you're after, you want the numbered episodes. So you want the haunting of the hidden hauntings of Germany or the haunting of Poland. Talk Spooky is all about email, so this is a very chatty show with very little obvious paranormal content. This one's for the mega fans, the ones who just love hearing us chat. If you want stories, and we get it, that's totally fine. The ghost stories are in the name. You want the story shows. Those are every other episode. I've had a couple emails, a couple snide comments in places, and I think, well, I think you just fundamentally misunderstand the point of Talk Spooky, my friend.
Yes, it's how we roll.
It's how we roll.
Our first message is from Paul that says, "Hey fellas, listening to your latest offering, I thought I would drop you a quick email. Hearing that you have listeners across the world, I thought you should know I'm currently listening in Zanzibar. Ooh, I bet that's not on your list. And while I'm here, a truly bad gig story for you." I like these. Being a young rock fan, I regularly attended shows in London during the late 70s and into the 90s. One show was Whitesnake at the Lyceum in central London, and being the eager headbanger that I was, I made sure that I was right at the front, up against the high stage front. To everyone's surprise, the support band was called Dead Fingers Talk. A punk band at a metal show was not a thing in 1978, and suffice to say, they didn't go down well, especially when they launched into Smoke on the Water. I never want to hear that song again. Then promptly stopped to revert to a standard 3-chord pump song. The crowd erupted, throwing glasses, bottles, and anything at hand, but being at the front, I took a couple of missiles to the bonce. Then, almost as one, the entire audience turned their backs to the stage, and all those in the pit, me included, sat on the floor facing away from the stage, at which point the band started spitting into the audience.
Classy.
Fortunately, my location at the very front of the pit gave me some shelter from the volley of phlegm coming from the stage, and I remember looking up to see spittle and lung nuts flying overhead like bacteria-laden shooting stars. What a beautiful turn of phrase. It was the highlight of the show. The hive mind action of the audience did work, however, and Dead Fingers Talk left the stage with their tails between their legs and saliva dribbling down their shirts. Ah, happy days. Yours is my go-to podcast and a number of my friends who I've introduced to GSG, and I look forward to every episode. Keep up the good work, and I hope you and your loved ones had an enjoyable and safe festive season.
Well, Paul, that's super gross. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, Whitesnake, another great rock band, fronted by a Yorkshireman, Sir David of Coverdale, sex god extraordinaire. What a man.
What a man indeed. Just before we move forward, we had another gig. We had a bunch of emails about bad gigs, but Paul's reminded me of this one from Terry, so it's not in the script. I'll just read it to you quick. So Terry said that Aerosmith came to her town in 2005. She was stoked to see them, and then the stage was set up so it had a runway going out into the audience. At one point in the show, Steven Tyler walked to the end of the runway, then proceeded to lay down on his belly with his face hanging off the stage. He then started grabbing young teenage girls by the face and kissing them on the mouth in a forceful manner, which might be the grossest thing I've ever heard. And Terry agrees because she said they fucked off right out of there. She said he would have been in his 50s. Not that any age makes that okay, but that's just adds on to the grossness of it all.
He's got form.
Form?
Yeah, he's had that kind of behaviour all his life. Do you not know the stories about him?
Oh, no, I do. I wasn't sure what the term form meant.
Form means he's got history. Sorry, it's
he's got priors.
Yeah. He's got form. He's got form in that particular field, shall we say. It means he's always been a dirty, sweaty bastard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, look up Steven Tyler's history if you want to hear some distressing shit that will ruin your enthusiasm for Aerosmith. Not that I think anyone had it anyways, but just in case you did.
In case to come back again.
Yeah, this will nicely, much like my my acupuncture treatments, this will forever solve your systemic problems. All right, I'm going to dip down and do a couple of Spotify comments. So these first three are from the most recent episode, The Hidden Hauntings of Germany. We had one from Flo. Flo says, Paul's pronunciation of the German places is sheer poetry. Vielen Dank.
Danke.
Ronwin says, interesting dream and sorry you were having or we're having a hard time. Hope things are better. Thank you, Ronwin. I'm not too bad. As I was saying to Paul, I'm actually in a very privileged position in that things are going really well in my life. I just am terrified about it. So, that's a super healthy and awesome place to be. I mean, my knee's fucked up, but that's just getting old, That's not much you can do about that. But, it's kind of funny when you're in that place where, like I say, everything's actually fine. Like, you're not financially precarious for a change. And, your health is, aside from, like I say, the superstructure issues, it was pretty good. You're sleeping, all that stuff. But, you just cannot stop being afraid all the time. What a world we live in.
It's feeling as good as a bear on cocaine.
Yeah, it's not that far off. And last one is Dana. Dana says, Bren, maybe at the end of the season for Fear Daily, load them all into a book. The stories are really great. Probably end up with a bestseller. Well, thank you, Dana. Funny enough, actually, that's one of the things that's going really well. I was telling Paul off air, Fear Daily is actually past Ghost Story Guys now, which is kind of crazy. For a podcast that's like 5 months old. I'm definitely planning on releasing collected editions. I don't know. We haven't talked about what that will look like totally yet. The original plan when we launched the show was I actually went to a couple publishers and said, hey, we want to do this thing. This is a show we're doing. And I don't think they quite grasped what I was trying to put across, because we basically got a, huh? And honestly, I'm glad, because I don't think all the stories are good enough to bother including in a collected edition. So, but yeah, no, thanks, Dana. And yeah, at some point, probably I'm sort of aiming at March to start putting the first volume together. So I will, I'll keep everyone updated through here. And we don't really have socials for Fear, but we'll find a way to push it out to that audience as well. But thank you to everyone actually who's written in with really lovely comments about Fear.
Next up, Beth writes, I was at college, university summer school in pottery class with some of my friends when the headlines everywhere were about Lyle Lovett and Julia Roberts getting married. I can still see that stupid People mag cover in my head. My friend Julianne was so quiet, I thought it was strange. Then on the walk home from class, she said that she'd met Lyle at a recent concert, and just a couple of weeks ago he'd flown her down to his ranch in Houston. We were so stunned we stopped walking. I said, are you nuts? and she turned so red and muttered, "He is very charming." She started to tell us about how he took her out to look at the stars in the night sky with him, and us, like the mature collegiates that we were, started making retching noises. Jules is one of those girls that's so cute and vulnerable, she always attracts the wrong kind of guy. She's only been married and divorced once, so I've got to hand it to her for not deluding herself anymore.
Wow. Okay. Lyle Lovett is also a dirty bastard, so we can add him to our list.
Which is surprising with a face like that.
Yeah, he does look like one of those strips of leather you use to sharpen knives.
Or a screwed up dishcloth thrown askew on a sink.
One that you've recently used to scrub an old yogurt container.
Yes. He's the kind of face that I would expect to turn up in a bag that was left at Bagpuss's house.
Yeah, the kind of face you couldn't even have him as a ringer in a police lineup because they're just going to pick him no matter what the actual perpetrator looked like.
He looks weird.
Yeah.
He must have done it.
It's a guy that looks like an old gym rope.
That guy that looks like a hernia. That's the one.
I tell you, man, I have not in my life I've had very few interactions with sort of people at that level. Never someone of Lyle Lovett's wealth. And everything I've read about like moving in that world for most of those people, I am just so happy that has not been part of my life. It just seems greasy and exhausting.
It is.
Yeah, there you go. Paul knows. Paul, greasy and exhausting best. No, I'm kidding. Folks.
Yes, I've had nights like that, I have to say.
As long as you don't tell me any more than that, we'll get along fine.
I can't, due to the non-disclosure agreement.
Folks, breathe a sigh of relief. All right, next up is from Chris. Of course, Chris, I have had the great honor of being a guest in Chris's house. His wife, Nikki, cooked me a gorgeous steak dinner when I was living in Montreal. And Chris says, "Hello, Paul and Brennan. I just wanted to answer something on one of the recent Talk Spookies, the conversation about Guns N' Roses, and another riot in the late 80s or early 90s. It was here in Montreal at the Olympic Stadium, and it was Metallica and Guns N' Roses. The story goes that Axl got pissed off. Can't remember at what, but it's Axl, so take your pick. Yeah, that sounds about right. And stormed
Tuesday.
off. Yeah, exactly. And stormed off stage and never came back out. People were pissed and started demanding their money back, and thus the riot. I actually have a few older friends who were there. This was also the gig where Metallica was performing. There was a malfunction with the pyrotechnics, and James Hetfield got burned, if I'm not mistaken. As always, love the shows, Fear Daily included. All the best for the coming year. And Brennan, if you happen for whatever reason to travel to Montreal, you know where to find a steak dinner. Cheers, Chris." My goal has always been to work up towards moving to Toronto. You know, I just can't afford it right now, so I'm kind of doing all these different things to try and increase my income. But part of me wants to just go back to Montreal, if I'm honest. I liked it so much there. And I love the culture of the place. I love the transit system. So, yeah, Chris, if I do end up back there, we will definitely connect. And I certainly wouldn't turn down a steak dinner.
Yes. I mean, imagine saying that. Hetfield was very lucky that night.
Yeah, no kidding. All that hair?
Yeah. I think they said it was 3,200 degrees centigrade.
Oh, my fucking God. So I actually don't know the story. I know that he got burned because there's those old E-Bombs World Metallica things with Napster where they animated Metallica. And all I remember was Hetfield going, "Fire bad." So I know he got burned. And folks, I'm sure someone out there knows what the fuck I'm talking about. But I don't really know the story.
Yeah, so they'd got this pyro thing to do. And apparently there was a bit of wind. So the smoke blew into the stage and Hetfield couldn't see where he was. So he stepped back to get his bearings. But the pyro guy didn't know he'd moved. And so he lit the fire and it just exploded under him.
Oh, God.
And so it just shot straight up him, mostly on his left side. And it burnt all the skin off him. He was watching his own skin evaporate in front of him because it was that hot. God. He had 2nd and 3rd degree burns down his left side, lost both his eyebrows. Most of the hair on his left side got melted off. His clothes melted to his skin. And they had to rush him off stage, obviously, and apparently somebody banged into him in the kerfuffle, and he started screaming and just punched this guy in the nuts with his good hand. Back off! And they just took him to hospital. They had to cut his rings off because they were melted to the bone.
Oh, my God.
Cut his clothes off, and they were just like pumping him full of morphine. He had to have skin grafts and all sorts. He had second and third degree burns over most of his left arm, I think. And they were saying he got severe tissue damage. He's very, very, very lucky. Very lucky.
Earlier today, I read about 56 pages of Clive Barker's Cold Heart Canyon. And there's a story in there, like the plot concerns an actor who gets his face damaged during a cosmetic surgery. And I have now that's 2 stories of skin grafts and associated body horror I've heard today. And I'm at my limit for bodies getting fucked up, I got to tell you.
Yes. And due to the circumstances, Axl refused to take the stage early to cover up because obviously Metallica couldn't perform.
Sure, yeah.
And so he sat in his room and sulked for a bit. And they abandoned it after 9 songs because he said the sound was crap and he was just really pissed off and said that would be the last time they'd ever play, and stormed off stage, and that was that.
Oh, what a little bitch.
Yeah, it's not like somebody's nearly died, mate. You sit in your room and chill out, you wanker.
Oh, yeah, no. God forbid he entertains someone else's, the existence of someone else.
Well, if he's on stage, at least he's not assaulting women.
That's true. I mean, Steven Tyler managed to figure out how to do it, so we can't rule it out.
Well, that's true.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break for some ads. I don't know how the advertisers will feel about that, but that's okay.
Well, fuck them. As long as it's not Guns N' Roses, who cares?
All right. Next up, we have, I'm going to go through the remainder of our Spotify comments. So first one is from Holly. Holly says, laughing at the birds down the chimney. This is from the Haunting of Poland episode. I too have childhood memories of this. One time a pigeon got in and went on a rampage in our living room. We called my dad home from work, who managed to catch it in a towel. When he released it out the window, we hadn't spotted the cat hiding outside. Oh no. Unfortunately, old Pidge only got a split second of freedom before the cat pounced. R.I.P. Pigeon. Oh no. Years later, when the fireplace was removed, several other little bird skeletons were found. Jesus Christ, that got dark.
One of our old cats used to bring birds home for us as presents, as they do.
Oh, yeah.
One stretched a fucking blackbird in. And I was in bed asleep, and all of a sudden I just heard the screaming like somebody were being murdered downstairs. So I came running down, and my ex was like cowering in a corner because she'd got, what do you call it? Fear of birds.
Ornithophobia?
Hang on, let me check. Ornithophobia.
Bren's got words.
Well done, man. And and obviously, they fetched this blackbird back that was playing dead, and as soon as it got it in the house and dropped it, it just started flying around. So I had to run downstairs in my kit with a towel and usher it out the back door. Not what you need with a hangover, is it? Shitting everywhere. Bird shit. To be fair, if I'd been attacked by a cat and left for dead, I'd be shitting myself everywhere as well, to be honest.
That's fair, yeah. You ever see me get jumped by a tiger, expect a tidal wave of fear poop.
I've seen too many people attacked by tigers, thanks to social media, whether I wanted to or not.
Okay, I just thought this was a thing that just happened in your life. You're like, well, walking down the street in Sheffield, because of course it would be Sheffield, some guy's just mauled by a fucking tiger. Well, just Sheffield. Tuesday in Sheffield.
Not that I'm aware of. There is a famous story here in this country about a barmaid somewhere, and there is a plaque to it. I can't remember where it is. And she was teasing a lion that was part of a travelling circus.
Oh, don't do that.
And the lion broke out of its cage and ate her in the beer garden. And I can't remember where that is, but that is a true story.
Yeah, you can't do that shit, man. You can't do that shit.
No, you shouldn't tease tigers, no.
Don't tease tigers. Doesn't matter how safe and secure you think you are. Don't do it. Don't do it. Tiger ain't going to forget.
You could buy big cats from Harrods up until the 1960s.
What the fuck?
Have you not? There's a very famous story. What's he called? Oh, my memory's terrible today. There's a wonderful, beautiful documentary about this. It was 2 guys who ran a bookshop in London, and they thought, let's go to Harrods and see what's in the pet department. So they went upstairs and they were looking at all the puppies and the birds and the cats and that. And then there was a baby lion there, lion cub, and they bought it. And obviously it was quite tame. And eventually, I think they got it till it was about 6, and they thought, actually, owning a lion in a bookshop probably not the best thing. And I think it was with Tippi Hedren with the Born Free initiatives. She helped get it back to Africa, and so they released it, and they said, right, wherever. And I think they came back, several years later, where they'd left it, and they just stood there and started shouting his name. And after 10 minutes, he came.
Shit.
He came running back. It's all on film, this. It's not, you can watch. There's a lovely little documentary on YouTube about it. And he came back and he jumps up and he's licking him and he's hugging him. And they've been gone years.
Huh.
It's amazing. It's so beautiful.
That's a happier ending than I thought that story was going to have, Paul.
Yeah, well, it's not all shit and thistles, mate.
How can I get away with calling this episode Shit and Thistles? I guess I can't. I'll find a way.
But yeah, I'm intrigued. I've got to remember his name.
And folks, while Paul is looking that up, let me tell you, if you have not seen the Tippi Hedren film Roar, you are missing out on a core cinematic experience. It was shot on their wildlife preserve. Tippi Hedren, it stars a very young Melanie Griffith, and you can see the fear in the actors' eyes as they are mauled by these animals. It is genuinely unnerving. It's a hell of a thing. I watched it during the pandemic when Alamo Drafthouse was doing their Twisted Tuesday or whatever the fuck they call it. Alamo Drafthouse is great. But just when the pandemic was starting, they started streaming their like weird Tuesday movies. You could buy tickets and just kind of watch it streaming. And they hadn't geo-locked it yet. So I saw some really cool shit that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to, including Roar, which you must see. And then look up what happened on the set of Roar and how many people got hurt. I think it was it Jan de Bont, the cinematographer who would go on to direct Speed? I think he was almost scalped by one of the animals. Like it's just bonkers. Have you seen Roar, Paul?
I have, but not for a very long time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the kind of film they used to show here in the day. Bank Holiday Monday, put that on for the kids. Fine. No, it wasn't Tippi Hedren, it was the British. We had a British couple here called the Adamsons, who were the people that are in the film Born Free is about.
Oh, okay.
And they were big advocates for reintroducing and saving lions in Kenya and Africa in general. And the actors who played their parts in the film went to the bookshop and met the lion, who was called Christian, which is an ironic name for a lion, I think. And so they introduced them to the Adamsons. The Adamsons arranged for them to get Christian back over. And then they went back 2 years later, and that's where he came back and said hello. And he fetched his girlfriends to meet him. Oh,
that's adorable.
So, yeah, there's a couple of documentaries. Christian the Lion, who was bought from Harrods in 1969, I think it was. Yeah.
Madness. I thought Harrods sold some crazy shit when I was there, in 2008. I remember they had like a 80-inch TV for $1 and they had like a geode for like 5,000 pounds or some shit. I tell you what, I don't know if they still have it, but they used to have a chocolate cafe on the second level of Harrods. And that place was fucking great. They had all these different kinds of hot chocolate, all these different hot chocolate desserts. I took Nick there a few times, and oh my God, it was just amazing. Just before we move on to our next message, I would like to point out that one of my neighbors is cooking fish, and it smells like hell in here. So we're doing this for you, listeners. Yeah, everything that happens after this, know that I am just being bathed in someone's terrible fish fry.
Have they got a letterbox? Do some Monty Python through the letterbox. Go, fishy, 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 fish.
I was actually thinking we could do something that that Lee suggests here. She sent us a link to something called Poop Senders. So Lee, no, we had not seen that, but now we have, and now I know what I'm doing.
That's the kind of thing we like to do here in the north of England, because Lee's from Stockton-on-Tees.
Ah, okay, that fits. From the land that brought you bull's eyeballs.
It's all northern japes.
Oh, I love something about when you say japes. I don't know. It just gets me. It just gets me.
Yes, it's just having fun, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Of course. It's a little bit of innocent male terrorism. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it terrorism if it's a kid?
Well, we're not going to
Involving
explore those
bodily parts and passings.
I feel like it is. I feel like it is. I don't know.
Is it really? You know, if you put a pile of dog shit under a piece of newspaper and set it on fire, it's not hurting anybody, is it?
I suppose not.
Till they catch fire, I suppose. Get shit on
yeah. That's how you burn down someone's house.
But you don't do it in the house. If they catch fire, that's their fault. Need better trousers. Don't buy cheap clobber.
Speaking of cheap clobber, going back to the Spotify comments, Angel or Madman 1 would like me to know that Cutty Sark is not horrible whiskey. I made a joke about that on a previous episode. Thank you very much. I have not tried it. I was speaking out my ass, so good to know.
Sounds like they're the distiller to me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Who sent you? Who paid you, Angel or Madman 1?
Angel Madman 1 at cuttysark.com.
Yeah. I look through my letterbox. There's a bottle of Cutty Sark standing outside my door. It just runs off.
Lad, there's a bull's eyeball on the floor. Where does that come from?
And a box from poopcenters.com, courtesy of
Big
Cutty
beer's
Sark.
nailed to my door. What the fuck is going on? I can't get out. Somebody's tied my front and back door together. The bastards.
Well, Cutty Sark has been busy. The devil works hard, but Cutty Sark works harder. All right. Our last Spotify comment is from Tony Evans. Tony says, my brother took me to see Superman 3 at the movies for my birthday, and as we left, he apologized and went and took me straight to an even worse movie, Jaws 3 in 3D. That's a 10th birthday I will never forget. Wow.
Is that the Michael Caine one, Jaws 3? Or is that Jaws 4?
That's Jaws 4, The Revenge.
Yeah. Is the third one the one where the guy gets swallowed by the shark and instead of just like stabbing it inside because he's got all his aqualung on and stuff, he decides to try and get out? Is that Jaws 3? And
I honestly have not seen it in so long I couldn't tell you.
Even as a child, I'm like, what's he doing? Can he not see all them teeth? It's going like that. You're inside it. Don't try and go that way, pal. You've got a knife. Cut him. Stab him. Get in there.
This has been Paul Bessel's tips for anyone who's been swallowed by sharks. It's like that David Sedaris book for when you are engulfed in flames, but this is when you are engulfed by sharks.
Think. Hello there. Let me preface this that I'd like to remain anonymous, should you wish to use this. I've just started listening to your podcast in order, and I'm not sure if this topic has been covered yet. I've been prone to nightmares since I was a small child. About 15 years ago, as I was rapidly heading into a deep depression, my nightmares started to get extremely intense. Night terrors, dream paralysis, waking up screaming. After a while, I started waking to the feeling of a hand on my shoulder or an arm gently around my waist. I never felt threatened, but it definitely scared me, since it was just me and my cats. A few years ago, I sold the condo I was living in at the time, and the touching stopped. I assumed who or whatever it was had an attachment to that condo. A few months ago, however, I had a dream that a friend woke from a dream screaming, and then I woke feeling a hand on my shoulder again, which then caused me to scream. Since then, when I have a dream when I am scared or struggling, I hear someone whisper, "Wake up." Have you heard of this happening to anybody else? Thank you. I've heard of ghosts that seem to be comforting, and I think that the fear is obviously it's unusual and it shouldn't be happening, but that seems quite a supportive spirit, whatever it may be. So it's not like trying to throttle you or anything. You've got, like, if you put a hand on somebody's shoulder, it's usually as a sign of reassurance or it's okay. And I think it seems like whatever that is trying to help rather than hinder. Certainly sounds better than that thing that used to tap me on my head 3 times for no fucking reason. Is it cow farts, Paul?
Oh, God. That was the greatest thing you've ever told me. and folks, for reference, Paul will tell you, it's about the most recent episode of Uncanny.
Yes, so one of the skeptical explanations about why this family had suffered decades of terror and hauntings after some other desperate straws were clutched at, cow farts were then put forward as to why these people were seeing something. So apparently methane causes hallucinations. the fact that it caused specific hallucinations to specific people at specific times wasn't discussed. But yeah, I mean,
that is the furthest reach I have ever heard on one of these shows.
Yeah, I mean, we had cow farms around our area. We used to run through before we realised how dangerous cows actually were. Speaking of someone that nearly trampled to death by a herd of the bastards. You know, when we were kids, we used to like go up to the local farm and we'd like run through his wood piles and everything, and he'd send his dogs out trying to get us, you know, and so we'd be pelting through this field of cows.
What the fuck?
Dodging cows and leaping over cow pats. Mad farm dog trying to get us, and then you'd have to sort of somersault over the electric fence. Great times. But, you know, and then you'd be able to, especially in summer, cow pats, leave them a couple of days, they dry out. Brilliant frisbees. Never wanged a cow pat somebody's head?
I feel like I shouldn't have to say no, but no. No, for a lot of reasons.
You never been hit with a shit frisbee?
I also no.
You've never lived, man.
I think it's a wonder you are as well adjusted as you are, given that you grew up in Thunderdome.
Well, you see, you know, just not a phone in sight, just live in the moment, mate.
Living in the moment, flinging piles of shit at each other. Suddenly cell phones don't seem like such a bad idea.
Yeah, great old days. Like you'd go down like a 30-degree gradient hill on a tray in the winter, and the only thing you had to do at the bottom was jump off before you hit the fence and died. Great time.
I mean, Nikki and her brother used to ride down their mom's staircase on a flat sheet of cardboard, and there's just a wall at the end of it. That is not a soft wall. A lot of things happened under the shadow of nuclear annihilation. None of them were good.
Well, that were it, you see. We all thought we were going to die any minute because Russians were going to bomb us. So we thought, fuck it. What's the worst that could happen? Just put yourself in a sleeping bag and slide downstairs. Go for it. Sellotape a pillow to your head.
The thing is, I don't think he's kidding, folks. I just don't think he's kidding.
Great fun.
All right, well, we're going to leave you with that image while we take a quick commercial break. I remember, I was not a horseplay kid, as you might gather. And I remember the one time we used to have these tire swings at the playground, and they were a metal, like a tire hung by chains. And the structure that was supporting it was very like thick wooden, thick timbers, probably about this wide across, like just rock solid. And what they would do is they would, you get on the thing and then someone would like spin you and they'd see how fast they could get you to spin. Now, the thing is, I've always been a heavy kid, so I'm going to spin more than everybody else. When that thing threw me off, man, and it did, it threw me the fuck off. I missed slamming my back into that timber by inches. And I just thought, you know what? This is God telling me horseplay is not for you. That was my takeaway from this. And most people would be like, see, I will live forever. That was my one chance. That was my freebie. After this, I'm staying inside.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot to learn. It's like I learned at the age of 12, don't dance on a polished table in socks.
That'll do it.
Because you might fall over and chip your elbow.
I mean, I think that's probably the least worst version of what could have happened.
Seemed a good idea at the time. We were a good song.
I fell off a table. Actually, I was dancing to Welcome to the Jungle on a table when I was a kid. Fell off, split my lip.
That's Axl Rose for you. He'll get you even if you're not there. You're gonna
die. We're back. You guys have figured that out by now. We're back. All right. We got one more message from June, and then we got a couple YouTube comments that we're going to share. So June says, I have a non-ghost story for you. A non-ghost story that I'd say should have been a ghost story. Why? Because I paid for ghosts. I know as soon as you read that, you guys probably narrowed your eyes and shook your head disappointingly. Both of you essentially have sound advice and opinions, especially Paul's repulsion of Caesar drinks. Bleh. But I have to admit, I went against your advice and used my hard-earned money to support something I really, really shouldn't have. I went to Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Las Vegas. You see, I was promised a tour there by my boyfriend because, during our relationship, he had gone to it a few times during his various Vegas boys trips. He said it was great, and my spooky-loving self would also love it. I shouldn't have believed him. Not only because you guys have rightly thrown shade at all things Zach Bagans, but because my boyfriend also dumped me earlier this year. Clearly his taste is not trustworthy, but I was in Las Vegas as Halloween solo and was enjoying the strip, which was in an opulent costume frenzy. The day I was flying home, I had most of the day to kill, so I decided I would take myself on a tour to the Haunted Museum as a single lady. Before getting there, I had no idea that the museum was in a semi-shifty residential area way off the strip. It truly was just a large house that had been converted into this money-grubbing attraction. Next door to the museum was a suburban house painted entirely in black. I laughed when I saw it. It reminded me of a little brother wearing his older brother's oversized leather jacket and scowling to look tough. Who was this try-hard owner wanting to look goth and edgy just because they lived next to this museum? I later found out it was Zach's personal residence.
I'm goth, man. Goth!
It's the spirits are making me do it. They're making me be a douchebag. June says, you'll find this try-hard theme runs through his entire museum. The museum, as you know, is filled with cursed objects and items that have ghosts attached to them, or so it claims. I was excited because I can almost always tell when there is something ghostly around. I feel it as this pressure or tightness, like there's a ball of tension that forms right behind the very bottom of my sternum. It doesn't feel like it's muscles or gas or anything tangible. It feels like the pressure you get in your ears when you swim down too deeply towards the bottom of a lake. It's been both handy and horrifying to have this tornado siren for ghosts. I expected the pressure to be present during the entire tour. When I entered the first room, it was dark and filled with an array of statues, figurines, knickknacks, and anything else someone would deem spooky. No ghost pressure, despite the many placards telling a ghastly story and claiming a haunting. All it was a collection of items that could have ended up in the prop department of a horror movie. During the rest of the tour, there were a few interesting rooms that had items with macabre histories, but nothing haunted. Room after room, claim after claim, but not so much a bubble of gas in my bowels. Finally, we were in the mobster boss Al Capone's room and standing on his office carpet. I felt the telltale pressure of something. It grew stronger and stronger, and I realized there was something on its way to our group. I looked around, wondering if it was actually going to see something supernatural. The pressure rose and then fell away, as if whatever it was just passing by, likely not even coming through the room I was in. Probably didn't even pay the $54 USD museum entrance fee. And that was it. Just tacky dolls and trinkets, overacting by Zach on his pre-recorded video clips in each room, and the proof that money can get you really uncomfortable souvenirs of some of the worst serial killers in recent history. So you guys are right, so very right about Zach and his museum. There has to be a better museum out there of haunted and cursed items, but the one in Vegas is clearly not worth anyone's hard-earned pennies. Also, Brennan, if you ever find yourself in Calgary, let me take you out for a beer. Of course, Paul too, if you ever make it out this side of the pond. Cheers, June. I cannot think of a more damning indictment of Mr. Baggins and his Wonder Emporium.
Get that on TripAdvisor.
Yeah, June, just post that whole email, June. And then just watch him rage shit himself as he tries to respond to it.
1 star, no ghosts.
No ghosts, total shite. I had that one experience when I was there, because I went there in 2018 with Shannon. But, that could very well have been a setup. The radio in one of the rooms, like the ghost box, spit out my name as I was leaving the room. But they also check your ID when you go in, so it's not impossible that was a work. But it's certainly not worth $50. You are not kidding, June.
Who was doing the door? Sylvia Brown.
Yeah, if anyone wants to hear my reaction to that, sort of in the moment, you can listen to I think it's like episode 29, Boats and Baggins, or of Boats and Baggins. Again, I had probably a nicer reaction to it, partially because, up until that point in the show, I had been shitting on that guy so much, because it just never occurred to me that, I was like, oh, I'm just making the show. But then I was in the museum, and they said at one point, yeah, Zach's actually upstairs in the office. He might come down and say hi to everyone. And I thought, oh, fuck, this guy's right here. Like, this is a real person. I got to stop making...
list.
I'm looking for a bald asshole. There he is.
I lost my sight because of ghosts.
Oh God, yeah. The thing I just cannot get past with that guy is, like all that shit, and the fact that he had the fucking Dybbuk box in there, that pissed me off so much, because even back then, like one of the books I read first when I was researching Strange was the Dybbuk box by Jason Haxton, and at that point it was out of print. I had to buy it. I had to track down a used copy, and if you read that fucking book, Haxton found the guy. The whole thing's made up. He found the guy who made the whole thing up.
Yep.
And so, like, who cares? This is just literally a Craigslist posting, or something along those lines that just got blown up out of proportion. It's not a thing. It's not a real thing. And he's got it buried inside 3 layers of adamantium so that the
Vibranium.
Yeah, exactly. So the wine cabinet ghost can't get out. There's nothing fucking in there aside from junk. So thank you very much, June. And yeah, at least you and I both, we now have had the experience. We can laugh about it and continue laughing at old Baggins.
So a quick couple from YouTube, ironically, following on from our brief diversion into cow farts. Lindsay Beach 9971 says, I find a couple of well-known skeptics sound more and more ridiculous. I love to hear both sides and like to think I have an open mind. But at what point do you admit you cannot explain what is happening and not everything needs an explanation? It's just what it is, whatever it is.
I agree. Just sometimes I don't have an explanation. It doesn't mean it's the thing the other person's claiming it is. It just means you don't have an explanation. And it's okay not to know.
Yeah. Yeah, if you start leaping to cow farts cause people to see ghosts, then every dairy farm in the world's haunted. And I'm not aware of a lot of ghost reported farms and dairy farms especially.
Yeah, honestly, that's why I think the tulpa explanation doesn't hold any water. Because if you could think something into being, I've said this, I've made this joke before, but we'd be up to our elbows in sparkly vampires and Jizai. If you could think something into being, it doesn't hold any water to me.
Not at all. And also the fact that the family don't speak to each other about everything they're experiencing, how could they then create the same tulpa if nobody's telling each other what they're seeing?
Yeah, you're just coming up with all these nested layers of bullshit to explain a thing that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it was quite funny as well because this Liam, I think his name is, the guy in the most recent episode, they interviewed his mum and his dad. And like his dad was saying, oh yeah, I used to sleep in that room and it were haunted. I was like, oh, brilliant. So you put your kid in it. Well done, Dad.
They'll toughen him up.
Yeah, but the mum was saying she used to milk the cows and she used to see the little boy ghost in the milking shed. And she got so frightened, she used to take Liam as a baby. Put him in there for protection.
This kid's got both his parents using him like a bulletproof shield. It's like the South Park movie all over again.
Bananas. Yeah. But yeah, also from YouTube, Celio 2027 says, I love werewolf movies, American Werewolf in London, Dog Soldiers, but if you want to see one that's incredibly realistic and phenomenal, it's a French movie called Weir. Now, I've seen the trailer and it looks really good, but for some reason in this country, it's like 18 quid to just watch it.
Weird. It's like a 12-year-old movie.
Yeah, it's on Prime. It's locked on Prime. So you never know sometimes, though. You see that and then you log on Prime and it's like, for 3 minutes, this is now 99 pence. Oh, you had that weird thing like I was telling you the other year when I was trying to track down Abominable, which is like one of those lost Bigfoot movies from the noughties. And yeah, I couldn't find it on Prime using the Prime app and searching for it. But if I Googled it, it would come up. And so I had to Google it to find it, to then click into the link, to add it to my watch list, so then log out, to go into the Prime app to see it had suddenly appeared. But I couldn't find it any other way. It was balmy.
Yeah, the streaming era is awesome.
It's a great film. The monsters are shit, but the film's really good. Better Monster, that'd be one of the best Bigfoot movies ever.
Fair enough. And I mean, there's some really good ones out there, so that's actually high praise.
It is. It's for me, it's a top 10er, definitely. Maybe even top 5.
Should. Well, on the subject of Where, I had a look, and it's actually directed by a guy, William Brent Bell, who did a couple movies I actually really like. There's The Boy, which I think is a really solid little horror flick. It was actually shot in Victoria. He also did Orphan First Kill. If you haven't seen Orphan First Kill, guys, it's fucking bonkers. It's insane. The first Orphan is about a little girl who gets adopted by a couple, and the little girl turns out to not be what they think she is. And she was at the time played by a young actress. So what they've done in First Kill, it's the same actress. They've just tried to make her look really young again. And it is insane. It's so much fun. So in addition to watching Where, check out Orphan First Kill. It's up there with Malignant, as far as I'm concerned, as like bonkers horror movies that not enough people watched. I mean, Malignant was a success, I think, Or was it? It doesn't matter. If you haven't seen Malignant, see that shit. Also see Orphan First Kill. It's crazy.
It's also an exciting day in the world of British Hammer, as Hammer have just announced their first new monster film for 60 years today.
No kidding.
And it's set in Canada, and it's directed by Casey Walker.
Okay, I don't know that name.
In a Violent Nature.
Oh, okay. Well, I liked In a Violent Nature. It's weird, but I liked it.
Yeah, and if you read the blurb, it's very easy to work out what the monster is.
Okay.
And it's set in Canada. It's really cold, and apparently people end up getting an insatiable appetite for flesh. So it looks very good. They've released all the graphics and everything. So interesting. So it's in production. Luke Hemsworth's in it. Kevin Durand.
Big Kevin Durand fan.
Yeah. So we shall see. But it sounds very interesting, that. And I don't think anybody's ever made a really Ravenous is probably the only one that's you could say is any good in that particular trench of horror.
Off the top of my head, that's the only one I can think of.
You got those really awful Bigfoot films that seem to be obsessed with sex that came out over the last few years, and one of those involves Bigfoot Wendigo scrap, doesn't it?
I'm drawing a blank.
I forgot. It's like called War of the Monsters, or some of the. There's like 3 of them, and they're all shit apparently.
Oh, okay. I've not seen them.
I don't think many people have going on the reviews.
Fair.
So yes, we could do with a really good Wendigo film.
All right, guys. That's going to do it for our Talk Spooky emails today. Thank you so much to everyone who wrote in. And if you'd like to send us a message, have it read out on the next Talk Spooky, send it to ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. That's the best way to get a hold of us. Although, of course, we do check Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, all those great places. Paul, my friend, where can everyone find you online?
You can find Mysteries and Monsters across most social media platforms and also podcast sites.
Fabulous. I'm Largely the Truth on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd. And you can find my fiction show, Fear Daily, everywhere podcasts live. And for our musical guest on this episode, I am very, very proud to welcome back a longtime musical guest on the show, someone who I am, as far as I'm concerned, is part of the show's DNA. That is Vampire Stepdad.
Woo!
Yes, Vampire Stepdad is hands down my favorite synthwave artist. His album Love Bites is my favorite album of all time. I adore it. I have one of the songs as my ringtone on my phone. I think it is a perfect record. It is beautiful, beautiful stuff. All his albums are good, but Love Bites is incredible. And we are lucky enough to live in a world where Vampire Stepdad has released a new single in advance of his latest album, and we are proud to present that here. The track is Car Chase. Again, that's the latest single. It is off his upcoming album, Night Shift 2. Now, it is not available yet, but as soon as it is, we will let you know. We will also play other tracks from it here as they are released. But again, you can get Car Chase now on all your streaming platforms or by going to vampirestepdad.bandcamp.com. And again, folks, if this is your first introduction to Vampire Stepdad, I envy you. Again, huge fan, very talented synthwave artist. And again, thrilled to have him back here on the show. So, we will see you next week for episode 208. And until then, we will leave you with the venerable Vampire Stepdad and Car Chase.